Okay, so again, I welcome you for the recording purposes. I welcome you all to this course, Prog 8050, High Quality Software Programming. And let me just discuss a few things related to this course right now. You would have seen in your course shell that right now only lecture 1 is available with you, and I'll talk about that as well. First, I'll talk about the course outline and the instruction plan, right? So that's an important thing. So first of all, let's talk about course outline. And as I see that there are certain people who are expecting few things from the course, and I let them know that what we are about to do in this course. I'm sorry about that. Okay. So what I understand is that you are able to see this course outline. So high quality software programming is the course name. It's not 2018 and 19, it's 21, right? Prog 8050. It's an 84 hours course, 6 credit hours. We will have a 6-hour class during the week. I mostly take classes synchronously, like online, as we are right now. But at times, as you know, we have missed out our Monday session. Our class time sessions are 8 o'clock Canada time in the morning on Monday, and this 1 o'clock on Tuesday. So what I'll do is that for this Monday session that we have missed out, I might place, or I'll try to place some videos related to that, and that 3 hours content will be available on a video format that you might see. But usually I will be taking this class live. But if at times I think that this is the good thing, and which if I record something, and I will be just sharing that with you people. Okay, so what is this course description? In this course, students will use an object oriented language to acquire programming concepts and develop programs to solve business problems. Now, a very important concept to start with: you will be using an object oriented language. Those who are familiar, of course, they would have some lights on in their mind. Object oriented, we know what is object oriented. But those who are new, as I have seen, some people have said they are very new to this, out of these few 6 7 people. So please bear in mind, I will let you know a very good understanding of what is object oriented language and what are the other languages, maybe structured languages or the functional programming, procedural program. I'll talk about that. No worries if you are not familiar with this object oriented word. I would make you understand everything related to object oriented, not in a separate lecture, but during the lecture when we'll be studying, I'll be telling you that this is the part of the object oriented in its core sense, and this is part of functional programming or structured programming, whatever. So don't worry about that. So what you have to do, we'll be using an object oriented language to do what? To acquire programming concepts. This is I think the far most important purpose of this course. I want you, or we as professors, like two people are teaching the same course, we want you to have very good programming, problem solving concepts when you are done with this course. By problem solving concepts, we need what? I will cover that in today's lecture. But right now, you have to be, as some people are expecting it, you need to be a very good problem solver after completion of this course. I'll give you a problem, you will think about it, you will come up with a solution. I'll give you a problem, and that is something that we'll be doing all over the semester. But during the end, or by the end of this course, what we'll be expecting you is that if someone says we have that problem, you should be capable of sitting down and making the solution of that problem. And you say that I can write these few steps and this is the solution of that problem. You don't worry about it, I'll implement this solution, and you will be very good in that. So we want you, I'm saying as again, the other professor as well, we want you to have very good programming concepts, not only to write programs, but since you are in a quality that program, you need to have a very good understanding of the code people are writing. So if to make quality assurance, a real sense, so you need to know that what this code is doing. So maybe writing a code is very important, and it's a whole new world. But understanding the code is another level. And if you are comfortable, as someone said, if you are comfortable with the programming by yourself, you will be easy in reading out the others code as well. I hope that makes sense. And you will be using, you'll be required, or you will be not required, you will be developing programs to solve business problems. So what are the business problems that you can solve by writing a program? That is also one of the part of it that you will be doing. Okay, Assignments in programming will be given to explain the concepts of variables, decisions, scope, functions, repetitions, arrays, full stop. So now, those who are familiar, they know about that. But if you are not, as I said, I will be making everything clear. These are few base concepts of all programming languages. Let me tell you a very interesting story about this here. Can anyone tell me in the chat window which language is called mother of modern programming languages? Anyone in the chat window? Which language is okay? That's good. That's good. C language. Anyone else? Which language is called mother of modern programming languages? Father is not known, by the way. Okay. Someone says C, someone says C++. Okay. Anyone else? Modern programming, mother of modern programming. That's good. Someone says Java. Someone says Fortran. That's good. That's a good edit. Okay. Someone says C++. Okay. I want all of people, like most of the people to come up. Okay. So now we have got few people. Right? That's good. Yeah, we have got few people who have just given this. So what do you think? So please bear in mind, yes, those who have said C language in its original form, it's usually considered as the mother of modern programming languages. Why? Let me tell you the reason. If you have studied C language, you know these things which I've highlighted. But if you have not studied C language, that's not a big deal. And I'll let you know that what does that mean. Basically, what happens is that we have got few things in C language that started in C language. They have become the base for all modern programming languages. For example, in C language, the real concept, in Fortran, in previous languages, variables were used in some of the shape. There were looping in some of the shape. There were everything in some of the shape. But C language, standardized all of them. And the syntax or the environment that C provided, that became the basis for all the modern programming languages. So if you talk about C++, it has all those components being based on C language. If you talk about Java, so majorly the concepts that are coming, the basic programming instructs coming from the C language. If you talk about C#, the C hash, the C number buffer that we'll be discussing, everything is coming from the base. So usually, why I ask this question? Variables, decisions, scope, functions, repetitions, and arrays. These are the most basic building blocks of any programming language. And these are the most basic building blocks. If you know them, you can work in any programming language. What do I mean by any programming language? But until this discussion, if you were new to this environment, you might have known that, okay, there is something called a programming language. There is something called a programming language that we speak with computer. We make computer understand few things. So we need to write something in programming language so that computer understands our language, so that computer performs something for us. So to perform basic tasks, to perform most of the tasks, the most basic foundational concepts, the most basic foundational elements that are needed are basically variables, decisions, scope, functions, and repetition and arrays. There are others as well, but mostly these are the basic concepts. Right? So our assignment will be focusing on these concepts. And the reason, please remember in mind, because we want you to be very good in programming concepts and developing solutions of the problems. So we want you to be very good in variables. We want you to be very good in decision making, scoping of the variables, functions, repetitions in one way or other, and the arrays you should be familiar with. I'll talk about everyone. If you have heard anyone, I'll be very happy to hear about that. Someone who has heard this word arrays for the first time. Is there anyone? And I'll be happy to know if there is someone, and they should be bold enough to come in front and say that, because arrays is a word I have never heard or I don't know what is that. Is there anyone? And I'll be, again, as you know, this is the data gathering that I'm doing continuously so that I know about the audience. There is no one. That's very good to know. It means most of the people are introduced to arrays. That's very good. Anyhow, so repetition. So we'll be talking about this. Particular attention will be paid to a problem solving techniques using logical solutions with either pseudocode and or flowcharting to design the logic of the program. the student would also be required to test and debug their projects and alternative solutions. So this is something very important, and I would ask all of you to just read about that, what it is saying, what is this course description. So one thing very important to note here, they are not saying that we are making you master of C#, right? They're not saying that we are making you master of Java. They're not saying that we are making you master of maybe C++ or C language or anything else. But what they are saying is that we will be trying to make you familiar with those mother concepts, the base concepts, that if you learn, you will be very good in your, in your programming concepts. And whatever language is given to you, you just need to know a bit of the syntax of that language, and then you will be implementing these concepts in those languages. I hope that makes sense. So what we'll be doing, we'll be giving particular attention to the problem solving techniques used for using logical solutions. So you will be given a problem and you'll be trying to find logical solution. I'm not discussing pseudocode specifically. I'll talk about pseudocode later on. Anyone can give a definition of pseudocode in the chat window, so that it should not be left behind. Anyone can give a definition of pseudocode? What are pseudocodes? If anyone knows it. If no one knows it, IDK is the right answer. I don't know. So IDK is a very good answer. Logic. That's good. That's good. Someone says logic. So if you don't know, you can write IDK. I don't know. that's a very good answer. No answer is a crime, but IDK is not a runtime code. Good. IDK, no problems. Okay, I'll talk about that. Just keep it with you, and I'll talk about that. What is pseudocode? And I am expecting you people to know about the flowcharting, but again, I'm just leaving that as well for the time being, so that you might know. Yes, this is a good definition. Logic right in a structured way. Step solve a problem. We'll talk about that. Yes, you are right. Maybe someone has given a definition in private to me, and they say that step-by-step procedure to solve a problem. It might not be rightly representing pseudocode, but yes, it represents something. I'll let you know what is that. Anyhow, so let's talk about this one. Eligibility of supplemental, and these are those technical terms. Required resources. There is a this RMIL C# programming yellow book. It's also it might be available in your resources if you can find out. And this Morax books, Morax C# 2015. So any of the book will be good for you. But what I'll do is that whenever we'll be discussing the topic, I might be telling you the online resource as well. Alongside that, you can go to this online resource and read about that. Right. So there are lots of online resources that you have. So just don't worry about these. But anyhow, these are the resources that you can just look at it. Murat's book is out of them is the most important. You can just go and find out. You might find out, like, in your library or somewhere, Murat's C# 2015 or whatever edition is available. It will be good for you because it's all all the programming and general concepts being discussed. Okay, so course outcomes. Successful completion of this course will enable the student to what? Discuss the main elements of a computer program, such as input output program flow. You will know that. Analyze main elements of a data flow, loops, condition switches. Talk about that. Classes are what in object oriented world. Summarize inheritance, polymorphism. Okay, inheritance and polymorphism. Maybe these are new words for few people. We'll talk about in object oriented world, how do we work in that, what is inheritance and what is polymorphism, and how we implement them by using C# and .NET. So here we have started talking about something. The implementational tool that we'll be using here are C# and .NET. So that's one thing. So it means the concepts we are learning here, we will be implementing that in C# and .NET. So for the course purpose, we'll be discussing .NET, we'll be discussing C#. But as I said, it is not the course of C# or .NET. It is the course of programming in general. But the required skills that you need to work on our current problems, object-oriented problems, array problems, collection problems, I will be telling you everything related to that, right? So, but again, so it means the implementation will be done in C# and .NET. So that's something a news for us at this point. Identify the roles of arrays and collections in C# programming. There is something called a collection. There is something called an arrays. We have talked about. It might be a new word for a few people. We'll see that what are their rules, their roles, and how we work in them. Then we have identified various methods of I/O in C# and .NET, including varying files, XML and console. We'll talk about XML and console applications and console, and that is something interesting. And I/O methods, how we can take input and output, we can produce output in C# and .NET. Summarize the need for GUI programming in using Windows WPF. Okay, there is something called a WPF, there is something called a WCF, and there are something thing. So we'll see that what are WPF and how we can just make good GUI programming. I hope you are familiar with this GUI. Can anyone tell me what is this GUI? It's a very interesting and interesting word. GUI. Can anyone tell me what is the acronym for this GUI? GUI I am talking about. Graphical user interface. That's very good. And who will tell me what this is? And what is this? Yes, graphical user interface. You are right. And what is this? What I've written down? WISIWIG. No, I'm asking now. Graphical interface is done naming. So now if you want WISIWIG, what is this? Front end. That's good. Anyone else? WISIWIG. Please don't Google it and try to guess it without Google. This one. I'm talking about this. I'm talking about this one. Yes, IDK is a very good answer, Kamal. And thank you very much. Okay, so who will tell me? So this is what you see is what you get. Please remember this one. This is an interesting acronym. What you see is what you get. Yeah, you are right. So what you see is what you get, or what you saw. Saw means you are going in past, right? So what you see is what you get. It's basically used for some of the environments where you say that whatever is available is all what you see. So what you see is what you get. So whatever is available over here is what you have for your discretion. I'll talk about that, but again, just remember this: what you see is what you get. In this chatting world, in this online social world, we are more and more inclined towards these short forms, and I usually get surprised every day. I learn a new acronym, these days, and sometimes I was just surprised when I say someone like, oh, I say, what is this TYSM? So after a long time, I came to know, okay, thank you so much. Right? So there are lots of acronym in this world, and you need to be familiar with most of them. Otherwise, you will be left behind. Anyhow, so we'll talk about this GUI, graphical user interface programming in Windows Forms, Windows WPFs. We'll talk about that. Define the elements of database programming in .NET using SQL Server. This is very important part. And I will let you know, I will give you a very good introduction of SQL Server. We'll install SQL Server, and we have integration of SQL Server in Visual Studio. We'll talk about Visual Server, SQL Server and SQL Client. They are very, very important part of it. If you talk about databases, if you talk about relational databases, so to speak, I'll talk about that databases when we'll go. Discuss various approaches to data use and data binding in Windows applications. Data binding is one of the concepts. How do we use data and how do we bind data? And then we have this LINQ language that will be used for querying, and that will be using very interestingly in C# and in .NET environment. LINQ, what is LINQ and how we work on this LINQ, LINQ. Right, so we'll be just talking about these different things, and these are all these communication skills, what you want to do and what you have to learn, interpersonal skills and something like that. So unit outcomes quickly, because I'm about to take a break. We have been instructed to take a break at every hour, reaching every hour. So I will just take a quick break, but let's first discuss about unit outcome. So you see here, successful completion of the following units will enable a student to do what? Let me just make it a bit small. Analyze the structure of console application, describe simple. So we have defined the basic structure of C# program that we'll do today, right? Outline main elements of a program, flow of their implementation. C# will do today, right? Define the need. So by today, I mean we'll just start these concepts, and we'll be just talking about all these turn by turn. What are variables, and someone who was looking for have a very good basic background or base in that, I will just give you the very good base of that, but just don't worry about that. Then define the need of object-oriented programming. What is object-oriented programming? Very important concept. I'll be telling you the need of object-oriented programming and the structured programming that we already had before object-oriented programming world, and what if specifically features has object-oriented programming provided us. We'll be just looking into that one as well. Then we have 4, identify the elements and relationship to object-oriented programming, describe the inheritance and generalization tool, and we'll talk about the C#, and we'll just talk about what is the role of interfaces in C Sharp, and describe arrays and major collections as I talked about them, summarize the IO methods available in C Sharp, explain GUI programming in Windows using WPF, as I said, identify the database in Windows environment, and RDBMS, a SQL required in development, data binding with WPF, and link, as we have talked about. These are all the topics in nitty-gritty details. Now, so this is interesting. Here we are calling this programming code, which is typically you can call it them assignment or as well. So this is programming code over here. So in 3, they will be 10% each. So this is our course. So minimum is 55 D that you need to take in that one. So group project will be one group project, and I'll let you know the explanation of group project, how many people member can be there, and how you have to work on. So there will be one group member to just bring tea for everyone, to just take printout for everyone. So it won't be such kind of a group. Rather, we'll be just trying to make a good group. Midterm exam is 25%, and final exam is 25%. That will constitute 100% of that. So final exam is only 25%. That's not that a big deal. So the assignment of the programming code is the big deal, 30%. Then group project is 20%, and midterm. So again, it means that we don't have that quiz or test over here, and that means we'll have this midterm exam or final exam, and we'll see that how we'll be just going about that, right? So, and that rest of the things are whatever over here. So this was our course outline, and we have talked about this course outline, and now we will talk about information like instruction plan, but not right now. We'll take a quick break of 10 minutes. After 10-minute break, we will again take a feedback from some people, right? And we will be having just that feedback, because we have got room 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9, 10, and 13 left with us. So we'll talk about that. But this is our instruction plan, where which I am leaving you people. So far, so good. Everyone is with me. I hope you have not got bored, because I will try to, just introduce some interesting things in between. That's why I will just take an introduction again, and then we'll come back to the instruction plan. So today is just a bit of introduction. As I said, I'll be placing videos for yesterday's session as well, Monday session. So far, so good, everyone. So let's take a quick break. It's 2:04 right now. So I will be back at 2:14. So break till then, right? So have a stretch, have a cup of tea or whatever you have, and then come back to the class. So after having all this data in front of me, so the first thing that comes in mind is that, again, that there are around, if I take out percentage, there are more than 80% people not in Canada right now. There are only few people who are in Canada. And of course, that is quite understandable with all these restrictions, with all these problems that we are having these days of traveling. Of course, that is quite understandable. But I wish, and I really wish that all of you will be, before the end of semester, hopefully you all will be here, because we are expecting to be in a good condition. Of course, let's pray and wish for that one, because we are having this vaccine rollout and all those things. So hopefully we'll be saved from all these hotel quarantines and all these things, maybe, and all those bans that have been implemented. I know that there is this ban from the flights for Pakistan and India. So hopefully that would be lifted, and hopefully you will be able to travel soon. So I'll be happy to know about anyone who just comes here, and they should inform us that now we are. And sometimes you might be traveling and you will have those traveling issues. You can always let me know, so that I can just adjust you. Maybe if that is an assignment or something, we can adjust according to that. Anyhow, so that's very good, excellent to know. And as I said, if you remember, you should be realizing that I said that in this section, of course, we will have certain people who are from that expert side. Of course, there are certain people who are feeling somewhere in between, and there are few people who are feeling as standing at the very 0 point. So what I'll do, of course, today's lecture, I will try to go into today's lecture into that way as well. But my coming lectures will be planned in a way that all those people who have already got good programming experience, they might be learning, and they should be learning something new on daily basis. Of course, that I'll try my best. Secondly, the people who are standing in between those two groups, they will brush up their concepts. They will be very good in their concepts by the end of our session, and I'm expecting that to be that they will feel that now they have their their concepts have been improved, right? So that is something that I'll be just trying to do. And then, as I said, those people who are very new here, they have to just be very vigilant. What does that mean by vigilant? By vigilant, I mean that you would have experienced by now as well that I always keep on asking questions. This is my tendency, that I always ask questions. So please bear in mind, there are certain people who are very good in these concepts. They know most of the things. So please, 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 if you feel that this question is very basic and this is not something matching my profile, because some people have got a very good profile. So if you feel that this question is not of my profile, you should never reply to them. Then how do I know that you know about the answer? What you do is that whenever I ask a question, you just place a yes in chat window. So that yes will tell me you are good in that topic, of course, because it's not something that you should answer. It is something that new people should be coming up and they should be answering. I hope that makes sense to everyone, so that we have got this good sense of first of all, I should be aware that you know the things. I should be happy about it. And I should not be taking feedback from you for those questions. Why? Because that way the people who are very new to this concept, they will be left behind. So what I was saying, you need to be vigilant. By vigilant, I mean you need to, whenever I ask a question, and if you are new to the concept, if you know the answer, or maybe you don't know the answer, you want to make a wild guess, please do that correctly. Please do that quickly. I hope you get my point. Why? Because I want to know everyone, how everyone is feeling about the question, how everyone is feeling about the. So that's why I've given to those people as well. If you feel that this question is very basic for my profile, just write a yes in the answer in the answer chat. I will know. Okay, you are familiar with that. Of course, you should be, and you say that you are yes. Maybe those people in between those two lines, they will also write a yes. I know about that. Don't answer that. Yes. Sometimes I will ask from those yeses that, okay, for example, if I say that someone has given a yes, and I'll say, okay, yes, just you tell us the concept, maybe, or you may write the concept. So I hope that makes clear to everyone the protocol that you need to follow. If you know the concept, of course you will be knowing some of the concept, having a background in that. So you will be doing what? You will be just placing a yes, and your yes will be telling me you are good in this. Of course you must be. And if you are a new person and you feel that it's a question that is focusing me, because I am learning new, I don't know this thing, so you should, if you are trying to make a wild guess, do that. If you don't want to make a wild guess, can anyone tell me what they should do if they don't know what is the concept, what is the question being asked, and I am the person who is being asked about this question, and I don't know the question? What should I write in the chat window? Can anyone help me out? IDK. That's very good. The IDK is a very good answer. But this IDK will give me a good sense that, okay, you don't know the concept, but you are trying to guess. If you won't reply anything, that will show that maybe you are not taking interest in my class. You are not concerned with us. If you are not telling yes, if you are not telling IDK, or if you are not telling the answer, it means you are somewhere in between our, between our class and our physical effect. So thank you very much, someone who has written down IDK. IDK is a very good answer. As I said in the beginning, no answer is a crime. IDK is a very good answer, and I would love that IDK answer to have from you people. Okay, so now I expect all of you. I hope now this protocol is clear. One another thing, a very important thing, you can ask any number of questions. If I'll feel that this question is basically something that I should answer right now, I will answer that then and there. If I feel that right now, if I'll start this discussion, it might go very detailed and our time will be spent in that, I will just stop that answer, and I'll tell you that I'll give you this answer maybe later on, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe in a coming session, or maybe towards the end of the class. So last feedback, everyone good with that? Everyone is getting that, what I'm saying? A yes in the chat window. So the protocol that I've told you about the question answering, that you should be following that. That's very good. Thank you very much. Okay, I will very quickly go through this instruction plan. Why? Because I want to jump into our lecture for today, and then we'll see that how it is going on. Okay, so this instruction plan. So whatever you will find in this instruction plan will be interestingly important, and you You remember that we talked about that in-class assessments or computer programming or programming labs that we have. That is 30%, assignment and projects 20%, 25 each final, and we have talked about that. So we'll just quickly look at it. So week one, we'll talk about this today. How are the program? What is the computer program? How do we run that? And how do you run a .NET program? How do you install that .NET and whatnot and whatnot? This all will be. This will be. So we will be using this key concept, similarity in the difference between Windows Forms and console applications, starting first program using Visual Studio, use of main program flow elements, and we'll talk about these slides of week one that I've shared with you people. I'll talk about that. This is week 17. So every week, if there is a something being published, that, for example, assignment 1 will be published and there is no due date right now, I'll give that due date specifically before publishing that, and I might be publishing that during the end of this week, by this weekend, because I had just got the access of this course shell very late. So I will be just placing that. Assignment 1 will be published in week 2, and that will be due in sometimes this one to be announced, right? So in the same way, you will see that assignment 2 is published and its date is again to be announced, and I'll be announcing that. So these are all the weeks. After week, again, there is one more thing missing over here. We will have a student success week on June 28th, which is not mentioned over here. So this instruction plan needs a bit of overhauling because this week is not studies. June 28th will be a student success week, and student success week means there is no class on June 28th week. There will be no class in June 28th week. So if you are planning your travel to Canada, you can plan this in June 28th week, because this week will be free for you. There will be no class whatsoever in that week, you might know. And then we will be just planning all rest of the weeks. And these are all the concepts that you can just look into it, and you can just review the course outline and this instruction plan over here. And this is not a 15-week semester, by the way. I think it's 13 or 14 week. I'll have to just look into that, and I'll just adjust all those topics over there. But the topics are almost the same that we have talked about. So now what I will be, without wasting any time, what I'll be doing is that I'll move to this 2021 summer shell, or maybe the folder, and I would start our today's lecture in the truest sense. Let's go to our week one and let's talk about our lecture one. Are you, all of you, are able to access this lecture one, week one? Please let me know, because I have just hidden few of the things intentionally, but I want you to have this week one, lecture one. Are you able to access this lecture one course file? That's good. That's good. Some people have said yes, so it means that you are able to access that lecture one file. Okay, so what this course is: introduction to programming concepts, problem solving skills, and things like that. We'll be using Microsoft .NET and C# to implement, as we have discussed. I would give you a very good introduction of .NET framework. What is .NET framework? Why did it was introduced? And one of the implementation of the language, which is C#, which is there, and we will be working in C#, which has come over the, there are lots of cool implementations, cool features that were introduced in C#. So we'll be looking at most of them, and more emphasis on programming concepts than specific implementations, since you will learn other languages throughout the course. So what we'll be doing, this course will act as an introduction to programming in general. Why? Because those unfamiliar, those having no experience of programming, will be familiarized with the programming and implementing that in C# and .NET. But if you understand the basic programming concepts that I talked about, the mother concepts, you will be very good in implementing those concepts in other programming languages as well. So you need to focus on your problem solving skills. And as I promised, I will be giving you some exercises. I will be giving you some food for thought, and you will be trying to learn those things for that matter. What this course is not. What is not? This course is not meant to teach you to become, it's to be the greatest C# programmer. So again, this course will not go into the downer depths of C#. What does that mean? The C# or the environment that is required for the completion of the concepts being discussed, everything will be discussed. But if someone says that I will be a C# master, that this C, when we first studied, the C is a SEAC. This is a whole lots of. So, but the concepts that we have learned, the concept that we'll be doing, you will be very good in that, in the C# programming, and you will be implementing that. But again, no one can say that, of course, after only an 84 hours of course, or maybe of a few weeks of course, no one can say that I am the master on this technology. But of course, If you do diligence, if you work hard, you would work on your assignment, you try to explore different things, you have got lots of resources around you, you can always learn a lot. So .NET and C# are a huge programming areas, and these 84 hours we might not be able to cover everything, of course, that we have discussed, but we expect you to be very good problem solver by the end, at least by using C#. So again, we will be expecting that if your problem comes in front of you, you are very good in solving that. When you solve that problem, you can solve that problem. At least for this course, you will be using C#. So the C# that is required to solve that problem, we'll be learning that C#. But the C#, again, as I said, there are lots of other features of C# that we might not go into the details of, but if you want, you can just learn them as well, and they will be your the pluses. So how to start? That's a very good question. Please pay attention to everything here if you are new to programming. So some people who have said we are very new to programming, so you have to pay very diligence. As I said, you have to be very vigilant. When I ask something, you have to reply to that, or you have to reply IDK as mentioned by someone. If you are expert in that, for example, you know about that, as I said, you will be placing a yes in the chat window, not the answer. I would be expecting a yes, not the answer from you if you know the concept already. So, but again, I would always look to have concept or answer from those people who are new. So they should always come up and reply something. Attend all lectures. Be happy that lecture recording will be available after class, so no one can leave a class for whatsoever reason. So attend all lectures. If you are unable to attend the lecture synchronously, video will be available by tonight, by tomorrow. You will be good and you cannot leave a class these days, right? So that is not a, and a very good thing is that if you miss a class and you are looking at the video, you can always look at the 2 speed. So which we usually do for the YouTube and everything, that we always go for the 2 speed. You know that we can change the speed of the video. Of course, you people will know that. So we can always change the speed, and what we can do is that we can just look at the video, 3-hour video in 1.5 hours, or maybe less than that. Sometimes skipping and things like that. Anyhow, so recommended book, as I said, that Murak's C# in 2015. You can do that. Lynda.com tutorials. I think they are also available in our on our email and everything in our library. You can always go there. You can always find that those are very important and helpful concepts. If you have extra time and you want to just spend, YouTube is your good friend that you can always search on a different topics. And there are lots of people who have been just producing some good contents. You can be one of them. Tools. What are the tools required that we have for today's class or for today's session or this session? Visual Studio 2019 we'll be using, right? And as I said, today I will just as I said, I will be just publishing a video for the installation, complete process of installation. If you have already installed, let's take a good quick feedback. So do you have Visual Studio 2019 or any Visual Studio installed in your system? Yes or no? Good. I've got a no. Yes, no. So there are certain yeses, there are certain no's. No, yes, VS 2019. Good. Yes, no, yes, no. Yes. Anyhow, that's good to know that some of the people they've got installed that they've got that installed. If you don't have, no worries. Today I'll just show you the code, and as I said, by tonight, by tomorrow, before weekend, by weekend, I will publish. I'll share a video for installation, all the installation steps that you need to follow. If you can do it on your own, that's very good. But please have a look at that video. Why? Because in that video I might be giving you some extra information other than installation. Because generally we do installation next. So I'll be telling you each and every step that what is basically required here and why we are installing that, or why we are leaving that, why we are using that, why we are not using that. I'll be discussing all those things together. So have a look at that video if you want to install that C#, Visual Studio, and we'll we'll use C#. It comes with the Visual Studio, of course. We'll be checking that up and we'll be installing. So C# will be coming with that Visual Studio. No need to separately install that. Of course, you'll have to select that component or something, but you don't need to separately install. Microsoft SQL Server integrated into Visual Studio. We'll see that it is also integrated. We'll be working on that, but I will tell you the way that how you can just independently also install the Microsoft SQL Server and work on that. So all tools are available to download. You know that these are all available to download. If you want to do download, you should do that, and you can install that. But I will be just, as I said, I'll be publishing a video. Tip of the day. I'll try to just give you a tip of the day for every class. And this tip is very interesting. Confucius, a Chinese, philosopher or something it was. And he has given a very nice, because, in his era, there was no programming. But I find this tip a very interesting, a very, very good, problem. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Does that make sense to everyone? Whatever you are hearing, we usually tend to forget very quickly. You might do not remember what I said before 1 hour. Of course, I myself might not remember that what I said maybe about something. So I see and I remember. If you see something, for example, in action, we have not seen C# in action till now. But if I show you a program, you will be running a program, you will be seeing a program run, and you will be very good and okay, you'll remember, oh, main function is like that, okay, variable is like that. So I remember something because I have seen variables with my own eyes. Till now I have not shown you the C# environment, those who have not seen that. So you don't know what is that, but if you see that, you will just remember something. But when you will start understanding, yes, can anyone explain the last part of it, the third part of it? Yes, for a programming course, what I understand, and of course you should realize that, you should appreciate that for a programming course, you will never understand unless you practice something, unless you do something by your own hands, unless you get your hands dirty with the programming. So let me tell you an interesting thing. I have just used this banner for this one, the course banner. If you have seen the course banner, if you see, so this is the course banner. You have seen that. So you need to get your hands dirty with the code like that. Right? I don't know whether the concept was behind this one, so I use this one. So you need to get your hands dirty with programming, and you need to practice a lot. And once you'll start practicing, once your code will start running, your enjoyment level will be on a next level, because you will then start enjoying the programming. Otherwise, if you just keep on hearing me, if you just keep on listening or looking at the programming, you will never learn whatever you want, right? So what we have to do is that, what I just usually share this proverb, or this saying of Confucius, Chinese proverb, and it says that I hear, I forget, I see, remember, and I do understand. So this is basically, do program and clarify your doubts by yourself. Yes, that's very good. And when we do ourselves, so you need to work on that. You know what is variable. Unless you will practice your variable, you will never know that what variables are in their real sense. What are arrays, you will never know unless you do that practice. Okay, so I start our programming course always with this pap word, right? And I know in Hindi pap means something bad, right? So but this pap is different. So PAPP. So the first P represents problem, the A represents algorithm, the most important part. The third P represents program, and the fourth P represents process. So by the way, I usually look at, I try to look at those good professors who are just teaching those things. So I just adapted it from somewhere. So I would quote him here, because there's one professor who I was looking at the lecture, so I've just taken this from him. But again, I just try to follow this one as the first part: problem, algorithm, program, and process. Right? Problem. All programming, all computer science is based on problems. There was some problem when computer was introduced, like were invented. There was some problem when wheel was invented. There was some problem when electricity was invented. Like, someone felt a problem and they came up with a solution. Someone felt a problem that we need wheel something to move on because we want to move faster. So they thought about that problem, started to devise the solution. They came up with the solution that there's something rounded in this shape will be very good for us, and this will make our traveling easy. And wheel has changed the world ever since. So electricity, I want to have something that can just automatically do something. And the thing that you are jumping into as well, that manual testing, but this world and this time is not of the manual world. I want to have an automatic code that just does the same testing that I do. So I need to know how to write that testing code and how to do that automatically. So you need to do that anyhow. So the problem is something that is basis of all those programs, all those computer programming, all those languages and everything. It's basically that. So in programming, when we have a problem, we write algorithm for that. Someone gave the definition of algorithm for pseudocode. Can anyone give a one-liner definition of algorithm? Everyone? I'm not right now just considering someone senior or not, expert or not expert. Anyone can give a definition. So an algorithm, what is algorithm? Problem and algorithm. Steps of doing something sequentially. That's very good. Anyone else? That's a very good concept. Steps for implementation of something. Logically defined steps to do, structured solution of a problem, steps to solve a problem. That's very good. So we can take any of the definition. Let me just take one of the definition out of you people, and I will just write that over here. Step by step solution to a problem, right? Step by step solution to a problem. This is an algorithm, and we'll just remember that. Steps to solve a problem. So those who are new, so just keep in mind, steps to solve a problem. Algorithm is the systematic way of doing something. Steps to solve something, right? The problem is that algorithm in its original form, if it is a solution of the problem, but maybe I've written down in English, maybe I've written down in Urdu, maybe I've written down in Hindi, whatever language, I've just written down that problem solution and algorithm. Algorithm can be in any language. You can write steps in any language. Will I be able to run that steps of solution in a computer? The steps that I've written down, can I run that in computer? No. If I need to run that problem, that algorithm in computer, I need to write a program. What I need is that I will need to write a program. What is a program? Now, definition of a program. Can anyone give me a program? I mean, right now, again, as I'm asking everyone can share. What is a program? A program? Or specifically, if I ask you, what is a programming language? Because here, a programming language will be introduced. A program or a programming language. What is a program or a programming language? Set of instructions to be performed in a system. Very nice. Anyone else? Collection of code, procedures, methods, or functions. Very nice. Instructions to perform a specific task. Very nice. Good. That's good. Everything is good. Set of instructions is good. From those new people, a language that computer understand. Oh, very nice. That's a very good concept. Language that computer understand to perform the instruction. You are talking about the programming language. That's a very good thing. So programming language is a language that computer speaks and understands. A program is that set of instructions that we speak with computer, we write for the computer. So the algorithm that you've written down cannot run anywhere in the world unless I write a computer program or a program for that. And to write a program, I will be needing what? A programming language. I hope everyone understands that. I'll just clear that. I give you a problem. You write an algorithm in English. You write an algorithm. I give you a problem. I want to add two numbers. I'll share that. I want to add two numbers. You say, okay, you will write an algorithm. In English, you start writing. Okay, first number, like the second number, plus adding them and then getting the result. So what you are saying effectively, you are saying that you have written down few steps in English and you come up with me and you say that these are the steps of an algorithm I can write. Right? But now, let me tell you another interesting thing here, because you are new to maybe these classes. Do you know that you have an annotate feature in your meetings, in your Zoom meeting? Annotate feature. If you go to your meeting options, can anyone help me out who has already used that? Because I am right now, here I am as a user. So if you go in your options, view options, if you go in your meeting view options, everyone can go in meeting options. There you will find an annotate option. Do you find that? Everyone? Oh, that's good. Now, if you see here, now you see different options over here. There's a text option, there is something option. So if you select one of them, draw option, and you have got a first option from draw, now you can draw anything. This is I am drawing something from my own other user. Can you find that? And can you draw something? You will be messing up my slides now. But anyhow, you can do that. You are allowed to do that. Okay, everyone is okay. That's good. That's good. And by the way, your name appears over here. So don't do anything bad. So anyhow, so you can just see that. You can remove that as well. That's very good. Thank you very much. People are removing that. But right now you are allowed to do anything. And now, can I ask everyone, or if not ask everyone, I will just clear all right for the moment right now. Now I would like you to take the text option and write as some people have written down. So for those new people, can you write down the definition of a program here? For those new people I'm talking about. Some people have already written down in the chat window. But now I want everyone who are new here, and they should take the text and type a definition of a program, what they understand now. Can you quickly do that? People are afraid of writing something. Don't be afraid. Today you are allowed to write anything at all, right? So just no worries. I'm waiting for some people to just write down some interesting definition of a program. Language that computer understand. It's a programming language definition. That's very good. Set of instructions. That's very nice. Anyone else? Can anyone write down the definition of? I'm talking about those who have not already given the definition. Excuse me. Yes. A piece of code to perform some task. That's excellent. Why not you are writing that on my chat, on my screen? Someone who has written a set of instructions. Why not you write down over there? Because I want you to be familiar with these things, because you will be taking online classes always. So you need to be very vigilant, and you need to be familiar with all these tools. Okay, I need one more definition from anyone. Here, maybe. Write down a definition. No one is coming up. Okay, anyhow, no problem. But what I can do is that I can do with a single click, I can just remove all those, right? Good. Set of instructions to perform a specific task. Thank you very much. Someone has shared that. I really appreciate that. Now I'll be deleting that. Okay. So this is something that I've added to you people, that you can. So you can just now stop annotating, but you can use this annotation feature if you want to write something on my screen. Anyhow, so program is the computer program that you write. And when that program runs in computer, it becomes what? A process. When something is running in computer, it becomes what? A process. Do you understand that? The thing that I'm running, the Zoom, is a process being running in the memory. The PowerPoint that I'm running is a process running in the memory. Can anyone tell me what is three-finger salute? Three-finger salute. Who will tell me what is three-finger salute? Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's a very good answer. Three-finger salute. Has anyone ever done three-finger salute to their computer? Now you might have something in your mind. Three-finger salute to computer. Yes, IDK is a very good answer. I'm very happy that you people are placing that. Three-finger salute. Now, three-finger salute, remember from today, it is Control, Alt, Delete. How many of you have done this Control, Alt, Delete a lots of times? This is called three-finger salute, because you use three fingers to do the Control, Alt, Delete. I hope you. Yeah. Someone has shared that. Thank you very much. So Control, Alt, Delete is the three-finger salute. So three-finger salute is what? Why I am asking this? You remember that when you do Control, Alt, Delete, you see that processes that you can delete these processes. There are processes running. So a computer program, while it is running, it is basically a process. That makes sense? Does that make sense to everyone? Let me just write down this here. A program, I should write computer program running becomes a process. I hope that makes sense to everyone. A process, again, a computer program running. So now this whole PAP, what this PAP does, you have a problem. You write algorithm for that. Algorithm cannot run anywhere. You use a programming language and write a program to that. While you write a program, that program, when you execute that program, there is something called an execution file, execute.exe. You write an executable file or run a program. When this program is run, that becomes a process for your computer. Inside your computer, that becomes a process in your computer. Does that make sense to everyone? I hope everyone is getting that, what I'm saying. So a problem program. So we'll just quickly look at few problems programs, right? We'll just quickly have a look at it. That's good. Thank you. So now let's example problems. There are lots of problems in the world. I'm thirsty, and I'm really thirsty. I'll take some water, right? Okay, so this is one problem. So how to solve that problem? I have few steps. First step, take my bottle, and second step, drink it. Okay, so that way I just do lots of things by placing them as an example, right? So I'm thirsty is one problem. If we were in a physical setting, I would have asked someone, for example, just go and bring water for me. So they will start some processes. Step number 1, leaving seat. Step number 2, finding out the water cooler, maybe. Step number 4, taking water out, maybe taking the glass out, for etc. 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 5, 6 steps, and I'll get the water, right? So that is yeah, open the cap. Yeah, you're right. So or break the bottle, whatever. So anyhow, so this is one problem. But again, need to put on socks. Another interesting problem. I want to put on socks. I want to have socks on my foot. So what I'll do, that I'll just follow some process, and I'll let you know that process, and you would have seen that. Add 2 numbers, a bit of more technical. We should be talking about some technical issues of that as well. So now this example problem. So I gave you a problem. I'm thirsty. You can write few steps, and you will say that these are the few steps through which you will solve a problem. You will solve this problem of thirst. Need to put on socks. You will say there are few steps. Go to the the cupboard, and you try to find out socks. If one colored socks is found, find out the second one, which is very difficult for the male folks, at least, to find out the same pair of the socks. It's very difficult for them. But anyhow, so that is something that we'll do. So add 2 numbers is more of a technical sort of problem. Algorithm, as we have discussed, it's a step-by-step solution to a given problem, not a give problem, right? I've just missed out an N over here. So a given problem, we write algorithm for that. So you see here an interesting one. I just wanted to share this one. Let's read this together, or I will leave it for everyone. How many of you, while reading this code, this algorithm, can come up with I just ask all of you first of all to read. Everyone, read that. Let socks on feet is equal to 0. It means I don't have any socks right now. While socks on feet is not equal to 2. Okay, it means unless I get 2 socks on my feet, keep on doing something. Does that make sense? I'll stop here, and I will like someone from you, again, those good like those experienced people having some experience of programming, and if they are comfortable, if someone can just unmute themselves and discuss this algorithm with us, that will be very good for me. Is there anyone, any volunteer who can do that? Any volunteer? Oh, that's very good. That's very good. And I understand that you have already, of course, you would have. Okay, you have just Java and C#. I've got this all data in front of me. I will be very happy. Yes, why not? Just unmute yourself and try to make us all explain what is going on in this one.
Yeah. So we have sock on feet variable, which is set to 0 or initialized to 0, and then we have a loop, while loop, which is an entry control loop. So once it enters, then yes. So we are checking. We are first opening the drawer. We are looking for a sock. We pick one. If you find a sock, then okay, or else it is jumping out of the conditional statement, do laundry and replenish sock drawer.
Oh, okay. So you say that if you don't find a sock, then you have to
Is it sir, the second else is it if else or if, because there's 2 else there.
Oh, okay. Looks like I've missed something, maybe.
So if we consider this 2 as if, then yes. If we find a sock, then put on a sock. That may be a function, and we are incrementing the variable sock on feet, and then we are looking for a matching sock. If we find a matching sock, then yeah, put on.
So let me just
nested if.
Yeah, this if you find a matching sock, then put on matching sock, socks on feet plus close order. So this else is this second else is this for this if, right?
Yes.
The line number 9 is having this 13 else, right?
Yes. Because, so those are nested if else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So then if we find matching sock, then it is again increment, which will become 2, and we are closing the door. If we are not matching, we are not finding a sock, then I think it is, we are also removing the sock, so decrement.
Yeah. Okay.
We again repeat this process of finding another sock.
Yes, I would like to just make it correct so that people might get confused. I'm just trying to adjust that, and then I'll share that screen. Because I have got this PowerPoint with me. So because this is a bit confusing, let me just make it a bit clear for everyone. So this else is of this if. Okay, let me just share my screen with you now. And sorry. Okay, so let me not share my screen, rather I will place this over here. Quickly come back here. Yes. Okay, so now I've just placed this else over here, this if and this else. Is it correct now? Looks like.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so thank you very much for your explanation. Let's talk about it. And she has said few very interesting and important things. I would just like to emphasis on them. I would just place few things over here, and I would like you to know. So should I write here increment operator, right? Increment and operator. I should write this operator over here as well, and we'll talk about all these things later on. And if I say here we are talking about an if and else, which is another programming thing, something. And here we have increment operator. Again, here we have again an if and else, which is coming over here. And then we have this operator. What should I write about this? Decrement operator. Okay. And so else do the laundry and replenish that skirt. Let me just see if that ends over here. Okay. Yes. Okay. Right. So let me ask everyone. Like one of the student, she has given a very good explanation of all those things. Now, what I want from you people is that try to look on few things. Here we are saying let socks on feet is equal to 0. So we are trying to wear the socks, and for that we are writing an algorithm, maybe algorithm, because I'll let you know that whether this is algorithm or this is something else. While socks on feet is not equal to 2, and what she said that this is a loop. So now what I understand from all of you, or what I expect from all of you, is that you have, at least who are here for the first time, they also know that what is the loop. Loop means unless I get all two socks on my feet, unless I do that, I'll have to keep on repeating something. I'll have to keep on doing something. Does that make sense? Again, I'll make that more sense in the coming class. But right now we say while socks are not on feet is not equal to 2. Unless I get two socks, do something. What is that? Inside that, come here. What do? Open the sock drawer, look for a sock. If you find a sock, then if you find a sock, you have find something. Oh yes, you're right. The indentation is not good. Someone is mentioning that indentation. And okay, so for the timing, I'll just what I will do is that I'll just try to do that indentation a bit proper, but still it is not looking that proper anyhow. So what I will do is that I will take this one out. So this if, this else, and and this else is coming from which if? Oh. And put on the else. Okay, yes, you're right. So this else is also, if that else does not work, it will be working over here, just for the time being again. So someone has mentioned, that's why I'm just doing that, so that it should be a bit more clearer, but again, we'll see that. So if you find a sock, then you do what? Then you do put on the socks on feet plus plus. Now, without learning the operator, I'm just telling you, if you do some variable with plus plus, you are incrementing that variable. So far so good. Everyone understand? Look for a matching sock. You have already got a sock, and you are trying to find out another sock of that matching point. If you find a matching sock, then put on matching sock, and socks on feet becomes plus plus. So again, if you find a matching sock, you have got another sock. Okay, sorry, this is the one, right? So this is the one with this one. So if you find a matching sock, then you wear that. And I'm sorry about that. It was supposed to be done before, but let's do it now. So if you find a matching sock, then put on the matching sock, socks on feet plus plus. What was the socks on feet over here? Can anyone tell me? It started with a 0, and it says unless it becomes 2. So now I'm asking to those people who are new to here. So I'm not asking everyone. I'm just asking some people. So if I reach over here, what is the socks on feet value over here? Yes, you're right. This is 1 over here. So if it has become 1, look for the matching one. If you find a matching one, then put on and then make it. So what will be the value over here in line number 11? Yes, it will become 2. That's very good. Close sock drawer. And if you don't find that, remove the first sock. So if you remove the first sock, what will be the value of socks on feet in step number 15? 0. That's very good. 14. That's very good. Remove the first. Sorry, and on 15 it will become 0. And then if you are unable to find a sock, then do laundry and replenish your sock drawer. So this is one algorithm that is generally just I want to show everyone so that everyone can have a good sense of it. So it is far more than algorithm. It is a pseudocode. Now I was asking about the pseudocode in the beginning. So if it was in a very generic language, for example, if you see the next slide, the next slide says adding 2 numbers. So if you want to add 2 numbers, what you do? You will say, give me your first number, give me your second number. I will add the 2 numbers and take your result from me. Does that make sense? Adding 2 numbers algorithm. Now this is very informal. This is in total in a raw English format. But do you find any difference between this and this? Yes. What is the difference? This looks a bit more. Yes, this looks a bit more near to programming, because it has some variable concept. It has assignment going on. It has a while loop being used, which we have not discussed. We'll discuss that. While loop being used. There is a loop being used. There is a if else being used. There are all those things have been used over here. So you will say, yes, you will say that this is more structured. It has a bit more programming constructs, but still it's not a program. It's not a program. So now there are different schools of thought which talk about different things. Some people say that if there is this in this form, this will be called as a pseudocode mode. Like again, as I said, there are certain different implementation, different school of thought on that. Some people say that this is the pseudocode. Why? Because this contains general English. If you find a sock, maybe it's also English. Look for a sock. This is a total English. So, but what we do is that if you have this general English plus some of the programming constructs, sometimes, as I said, there is a difference of opinion in there. But sometimes people say that this will be treated as a pseudocode rather than algorithm. And some people say no, algorithm as a formal. So some algorithms have a formal programming language construct. So again, for that school of thought says no, if it has some programming constructs, it is still considered as algorithm. But few people say that pseudocode is that implementation which is in between our proper English and in between the real program. That is called a pseudocode. So now, just summarizing everything. A pseudocode typically is something in between our general English and a programming code. It contains some of the programming constructs. It contains some of the looping structures. It contains some of the operators in it and things like that. So some people said that this is a pseudocode. But some people, some places, if you just go online, and I'll be happy to have your feedback on next class about this. Some people say, no, this is an algorithm which contains this one. So I'll be happy to have your feedback on that. What do you think about that? So some people again say, they will say that this one typically is a generic algorithm which is in very general language. So this is an algorithm. But if you introduce some of the programming constructs, if you introduce a looping, if you introduce some variable, something, increment, decrement operator, then it will become a pseudocode. So I'll take your catch on that one, right? So this is an algorithm of adding two numbers. If I ask you to write an algorithm or something in your own language, so you'll say, okay, give your first number, give your second number. I'll add two numbers. Can anyone write a pseudocode structure representation of this one on my screen by using annotate feature? So if you can just try to write down it more in a formal language, can anyone write that? Not in a computer program, but in more a formal language, as we have talked about. Can anyone write these 4 steps in a more formal language than this one? It's a very informal language. And by using annotate, you can write on my screen. That will be good. I've cleared all drawings. Yes. Is there anyone who can write a more formal representation of this one, this code? Is there anyone typing? Yes, I'm missing everyone till now. Those with having prior experience, they can do that, or maybe a new one. Am I online? Okay. Are you people hearing me? Looks like, okay. Read first number from input. That's very good. Someone is writing that. I'm very happy about that. Yeah, you can do on my screen. Whatever whosoever wants, they can do it on my screen by using annotate feature for everyone. Someone is writing, read first number from input, read second number from input. That's very good. That's very good. Anyone else? Anything else? This is the second step you have done. There was someone else also saying that I can do that. Let me just stop recording and talk to them. Now, yes, someone has helped us out to point out that there is something called a flowchart as well, the diagrammatical or pictorial representation of a problem. And not today. In next class, I will just give you some problems, and we will just try to come up with the pictorial representation of the solution as well. So let's quickly discuss that. And someone has rightly pointed out all those things, that whenever you have this square-like or rectangle-like shape, it represents what it represents. It represents a process, right? Something, doing something. And there is something called a parallelogram, which I am not able to draw maybe here because I don't find a parallelogram in this one. But let me just free flow drawing that, if I am able to do that. If something like this is called parallelogram. Bear with my drawing. So this is called a parallelogram. Looks like a line would do better for me. So a parallelogram is something like this, and like this. Again, bear with my drawing. So a parallelogram, it represents what? It represents an input or output. It represents input or output, whatever. And this square represents a process. And I'll talk about that in details, but right now you can just have a look at it. And what we can do is that we can, this one, which is over here, it is called decision box or decisioning, which we're talking about, if and else in something like that. If else in something like that, right? So these are decision box. So a problem solution can be written in a form of algorithm, as I said, in a form of algorithm, in a very generic terms. And yes, you are right. Circle is a starting point. I'll just mention that as well. And you can write that in algorithm, in writing, and you can just create a shape for that particular thing as well. And as I said, today I don't have, but I'll just share in the coming class or maybe in a video that how you can just draw that and specifically. So a problem can be solved or can be represented. The solution can be represented by a flowchart itself. Now, one of the very important thing about flowchart is that it's all shapes are self-explanatory. Like again, if someone says something like this, it will say, okay, input or output is happening. And as someone has mentioned, a circle marks the start and a circle also marks the end of a flowchart as well. So now what is that? It's basically not. Yeah, exactly. So now basically what we are doing is that it will represent input output. It will represent always a decision box. It will always represent a process box. And that is something we'll talk about today as well in some of the context of this one. So I hope you enjoyed this one. There was a bit of the indentation was a problem, but hopefully now you understand what was going on. There is a variable concept. There is something that you can define and you can store some values. You are checking unless these values becomes true, and I'll make you understand each and everything later on. Okay, now we have come to this part where in lecture I just mentioned about the installation, but let's talk about that installation in detail. So most of the people, some of the people, they said that they have got the installation, and you have got if you are done or you have already installed, that is quite wonderful. Otherwise, just wait for the video and again look at that video. Any case, as I said, you'll find some good information over there. So I'll be just releasing that video maybe if I'll get a time, maybe tomorrow or maybe day after. But before weekend, you will get that video for installation, and hopefully you will be very good in that, right? So just to have a quick taste of the programming today, what we will do, I will, as I said, I will be just, I'll stop sharing my screen here. And what I'll do is that I'll start sharing my other laptop here, because I want you people to see something interesting. And I'll just, today I'll just give you a quick introduction, and then we'll talk about this one, and we'll see that how we are going about that. So are we all able to see? Again, my laptop screen is over here, and we have got this screen over here. I'm just showing you something interesting over here, and as I said, I will just I'll just give a quick introduction about that. This is my other laptop. Right, so this is our one of the program of C#, and this is one program that we might write to do something, to perform something. As I said, that we want to implement something, we will be needing to write a computer program for that. So C# program, to start with, you will find that this C# program will look like something like this. Out of this, what I'll do is I'll just give you few things, a quick reference, and then, as I said, in the coming classes, we'll be just exploring each and everything very, in a downer, deeper detail. And you might come across a lots of situations where we'll just talk about that. So let's start with first line, using system. So there are lots of things that I won't be creating by myself. Rather, I want to use those things like previously made functions, previously defined functions, and I want to use those functions in my program. So if I want to use those functions, use different things, I will be using a keyword over here, using. Those who are familiar with C language, or if you are not familiar, you can just understand it over here. You used to write include and something like that, stdio.h. Do people remember? Those who have worked in that, and if you have not worked, you can look at it. So console input output.h. These were some of the header files that we used to include in a C program, in a traditional C program. So those who are familiar with C language, those who have done the programming in C language, can anyone tell me what were these? Like, the concept is we want to include some file, include some library. .h are the header files that in C language. So anyhow, we want to include a standard input output header file. We want to include a console input output .header files over here. I'm talking about C language. Now I have a question. Can anyone tell me, it's an interview question by the way, preprocessor directives. Preprocessor directives. Can anyone tell me what are preprocessor directives? Again, if you are not familiar with C language, even then I will just make you understand, and you people will know very good things about this. As I said, it's usually for a programmer, it might be a interview question. What are preprocessor directives? Can anyone give me a definition of preprocessor directives here in chat window, or maybe unmuting themselves? Yeah, waiting for a definition of preprocessor directives for those people who are familiar with C language. Yes, you are right. It will be starting with hash. I'm asking about what are they? Like, if I ask you that, how can you define them? It's something hash. You place hash before preprocessor directives. But what are these preprocessor directives? I want to know about that. Predefined functions. Okay, that's good. Anyone else? I'm talking which direct the processor to include or process the mentioned file. Very nice, very nice. Which direct the processor. I have someone has shared a definition in private. I think you have shared that by mistake in private. You should share it with everyone, right? Because I don't think it's something that you should be sharing in private. So can you just yeah, that's thank you. So which directs the processor to include or something, are executed before compilation. That's very good. That's very good. Now please listen about that, and I will again. It's something not directly related to our topic, but it's somewhat related. Preprocessor, its name suggests, it comes before processor. What do I mean? All these lines of code that we are writing over here, like this static void main, and then we might be writing something in between these you know these bracket signs or something. We'll be typing something over here and doing something. These are all the instructions for the computer, the processor. And what comes before the processor? Preprocessor. So what comes before the processor? Those who are familiar, let me tell you, that is called a compiler. How many of you, again, I'm talking to those who are new here because I have to just place them. How many of you know what is compiler? If you don't know, you can write IDK, compiler. What is a compiler? And if you know, I'm talking to those new people, fresh people over here, they should write the definition. Good. Someone has said IDK, compiler. They don't know what is compiler. Because it's a very important concept for us. What is compiler? Anyone, those new people? Step-by-step compilation of code. That's a very good concept, but it's not a compiler. That's good. Someone says IDK. It's a very appropriate answer. Translator. It's a good definition. Anyone else? Anyone else? What is a compiler? I'm asking just. Compiler. It's a good definition. Someone good concept. Someone says translator. And someone says step-by-step compilation of code. It's the compilation process. I'm talking about compiler. What is compiler? Translates code to assembly language. That's very nice. Very nice. Someone has given a very good definition. Scans the whole code. I'm not sure. That's very good. Scans the whole code. You are right. So someone says interpreter. Someone says translate code to assembly language. It verifies, checks the code. Very nice. That's very good. High level to machine level. Oh, that's very good. High level to machine level. That's very good. That's very good. Okay, now stop here. Now I will just give you a very good. Some people have given converting source code to object code. That's very good. And that's also the right concept. But let me tell you a very important concept about that compiler, because this is something directly related to our compiler. Someone has given a very good definition. I don't know who is that. Converts. I hope you are looking at it. Yes. Converts high level code into low level code. High level code into low level code. Okay, someone has that compiler compiles use the user level language used to bytecode or machine understandable code. Yes, you're right. So now listen, compiler is something that converts our high level. So there are different levels of programming languages. There are different types of programming languages. One is called high level programming languages. One are called low level programming languages, or machine level, or whatever. So please listen to it carefully. Everyone, those who are new specifically, I'm talking to them. Whatever we write, usually the languages that we use, they are all high-level languages. Does that make sense? They are called high-level languages. Why they are called high-level languages? Because they are more in human understandable form. So this is something not in lecture notes, but I'll be just high-level languages, more human understandable form. Understandable form. Please forgive my spellings. High level languages, more in human understandable form. And what are low level languages? Low level, machine understandable. Machine understandable. Sorry about that definition. Spellings. Machine understandable. Binary zeros and ones. You're right. Zeros and one. So we write program in our English language. If something happens, if salary is greater than 10,000, if age is greater than 18, if something happens, do something. If something happens, do something. This all code that we write, it's called high level language code. And we want to convert this high level language code into low level language code, low level language, so that machine understands it. So low level language is the language that machine understands. It's in zeros and one forms. It's binary language, and machine understands that language. It means that we write our program in high level language, and compiler converts that into the low level language. I'm right now talking to those new to this programming world. Do you understand the concept? Converting our high level language, converting our more human friendly language into the machine understandable language is called compiler. I'm talking to those new who said IDK about the compiler. So compiler converts our language into machine language and vice versa as well. Like machine will talking to us. So compiler converts that one way or other, that converts that also for our language. I have just received 2 yeses. I want more yeses from you people. Okay. What I'm doing here by looking at the clock, so I want to stop here. I've just shown you this one and just forget about maybe. So these are the important concepts that you need to keep in mind. And this is a C# program. I'll talk about each and everything of this C# program. What I'll do is that, again, there are a few things that I might be publishing in video, and there are a few things that I'll be discussing in our Monday's class. Our Monday session will be 8 o'clock in the morning. This is very good for those people in India, because I know that you will have 5:30 at that time, right? At 8 you have 5:30, because I think it's 2.5, it's a 8.5 hours something difference. Okay, that's good. So we'll have Monday class. That will be a fresh class in the morning, because you people have this night. Right now you are having almost the half, more than 12. So basically what I'll do is that I'll just first of all I'll publish a video related to installation of Visual Studio, and then I will just publish few important information like this: compiler, what is compiler, what are these different preprocessor directives. I'll talk about preprocessor. I've not talked about preprocessor directive in detail. I'll talk about that. And here I was trying to talk about the using system. This is something like that preprocessor directive telling system, that telling program or telling compiler that I will be using these things. I'll talk about that in a later detail. What is namespace? I'll tell you. What is a class? The object-oriented world. We'll talk about that. What is the static keyword? What is void main? Why we use main? Can we run a program without a main function and things like that? There are lots of issues that we will be trying to solve shortly. So I will be stopping here, because now I am also tired, and of course you people will be tired as well. So now I'll stop here. And as I said, this was our very first class, and we missed our Monday session. So we have just kept few things very generic today. But let me have a quick feedback from all of you, that whatever we have discussed, I'm just placing a dash line over here. I need all of you just give a feedback. Whatever we have discussed, how much percentage of that you grasp today? 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40. That will be exit ticket for that one. Okay, that's very good. I need from everyone how much percentage of the things that you have discussed. That's very nice. That's very nice. And I'm specifically talking to those who are new here. That's very good. 95. That's very loyal of you. 95, around 95. That's good. 99, 100, 99. So this is I'm right now talking to everyone. Okay, thank you very much. So it means that most of the people are trying to get. So now, as I said, wait for my video for installation instructions as well, and I will just discuss few important concepts in that as well. That would be a fresh video, of course. And then on Monday we'll just start right from here where we are leaving today. And last question to those people who are experienced in some things, that did something was added, like is there something that has been added to your information as well today? Maybe not in the right, maybe in the deepest concept, but I've tried to, I always try to just have maybe 1 or 2 things or 2 or 3 things, that something that you feel that was something that has come across us. So anyhow, but that we'll just take that feedback in the coming classes, because today we have not gone into far deeper depth of anything. Any question thus far from anyone? If you have any question, you can just go ahead and ask them. And if no questions, you can just place as you have placed an exit ticket of your percentage, you can also place a bye message and leave the meeting. Okay, I'll place this recording very shortly on your course shell, and this will be available to you. Maybe, as I said, maybe by tonight or by tomorrow, this will be available to you. I just upload this on YouTube and I'll share a link. Right. So far, so good. Any question? Okay. So yes, what about attendance? So, this is very good question. Okay, where can you find? Okay, just stop recording first of all, and then I'll let you know what is going on. I'm stopping recording.